one of the rare days where we have like perfect weather where it's not cold and not hot.
It's not terribly.
It's not terribly hot. It's a little warm in here. We got a lot of things cooking behind us.
Yeah.
So tell everyone who you are and where we're at.
My name is Morgan Fairbank. I am the lead brewer here at Bare Bottle Brewing in San Francisco, California. We are sitting in front of our 20-barrel brew house on a somewhat crispy Friday in San Francisco and drinking a couple beers and talking about the beer industry and just the general industry in San Francisco and just things that we wish people knew more about our respective industries. So this is our original spot. 2016, I think, was our opening year. So yeah, we've had a pretty good run, survived the pandemic. And yeah, we're still here. This is our main facility here in San Francisco. We also have a tap room in Santa Clara, a small tap room in Salesforce Park, and one in Menlo Park as well.
A lot of breweries did make it through a pandemic, thankfully. Like a few shut down, but everyone needed to drink during closure.
Yeah.
So that worked out pretty well.
Yeah. It turns out we were somewhat, if not recession-proof, pandemic-proof. We did pivot quite a bit to doing direct-to-consumer sales, which really helped us a lot. Being able to deliver our own beer and not have to go through a distributor, that saved our bacon more than anything. To be able to have a website up where customers could order beer and be I'm stuck at home, I want ABC, and I need it by this time, and then I would show up at your door with a bottle of beer and be like, hey, here you go.
That's one of the good things that Newsom did here in California was in LA, Alameda County, is very much sure, beer, alcohol delivery, to-go cocktails, all that immediately. That really saved a lot of us.
I mean, I feel like we're in a space now where a lot of people know a lot about just the process of beer, what goes into it, the nuts and bolts of how it's made, how a mash and a kettle work and that sort of thing, how fermentation works. Because we have a very big home brewer population in the U.S. It's kind of been growing more and more, even a little bit since the pandemic. So we do have a really solid base of people who know a lot of beer, or know a lot about beer, kind of in the same way that you have a lot of people who are foodies in the same way. And there is kind of a double-edgedness to that too, where it's both kind of a blessing and a curse of having somewhat of an overeducated population of people. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
That being said, I do enjoy talking to people about beer all the time. I think maybe some of the things that people get wrong, kind of just about the industry, is just kind of what the day-to-day looks like. I mean, you get a lot of dads who come in here who are just oh man, you've got the best job in the world. You get to drink beer all day, and it's dude, you don't get to eat food all day just because you're a chef. No. It's a lot of very physical work. A lot of it is very can be mentally taxing. A lot of it is very just schedule oriented and just changing on the fly and trying to figure out solutions to complex problems as you go. Because kind of as I've learned doing this, it's easy to make beer. Scheduling and problem solving and maintaining and doing maintenance and figuring out how the beer's gonna get from point A to point B, that's the actual hard part. I think that's probably the one thing that people get wrong is making beer itself isn't hard. Because it's the same process. It's like baking a cake 5 different ways. It takes a little bit longer, but it's not that difficult.
I would I think that looking at, like you said, it's I don't get to just sit around and eat food all day. I have to check in orders, and I have to make sure our inventory is on par, make sure that our prep is gone. Is going exactly how we need it. You don't just get to come in and just make beer. You have barley that's being delivered, and wheat, and hops, and hop prices just jumped through the roof. So what do you do about that? Stuff there's all those little things you don't just sit around and drink beer. I mean, meanwhile, we are sitting here drinking beer. Cheers. Speaking of which, what are we drinking?
So this is a West Coast IPA called Enigma's Escape. So it's Enigma and Mosaic, and a West Coast IPA. This is done by our executive director, Kelsey Holstein. This is her recipe, and it's very, very good. Enigma is one of my favorite hops. It's Australian grown. It has a lot of very tropical, earthy characteristics to it. It can be a little bit spicy, but it doesn't come out too much in here. And also, it's very well balanced with the Mosaic hops, which are just kind of that's kind of our bread and butter hop. You'll see most craft breweries have Mosaic on their line. It's a very popular hop out there these days, and it's just It's so good. I think of it like the Honda Civic of hops because it's so reliable. There's so much you can do with it. It's just it's a great commuter, but it's also just it can really surprise you at times. And in this, it comes out just very lovely. It's like super blueberry, tropical, a little bit of passion fruit, a little bit of piney resinousness, and then just a little bit of just kind of like dank OG character. So I like all those things in the beer. So
yeah, for me, it also has that like. The passion fruit has like that acid to it, the little bit like that. It's not citrus, but it's like the only thing my brain goes to is citrus because of the passion fruit.
Yeah.
But it's got that kind of like fruity, citrusy kind of vibe to it, which is delicious on a hot day in San Francisco. What was the first thing that like got you to start brewing beer?
It's a weird one, actually. So my grandmother actually got me into brewing beer. So my grandmother on my father's side, she lived on a small island in British Columbia, and she was a little bit of like a recluse. She was a hippie who kind of moved out there in like the late 60s, early 70s to live kind of like a commune lifestyle. Okay. And she kind of stayed there her whole life, even after my dad moved away. But she would always brew beer out there because she didn't get regular deliveries of like beer, and she hated how much Molson cost out in Canada and the quality of it. So she was always brewing her own beer. So it was something that like my brothers and I would help her with when we were visiting in the summers. And so like when I was like 13, like I was drinking beer at my grandmother's house, helping her make it. And it wasn't like ooh, this is like a cool craft beer. This is just like another chore that like we did in the summer next to like cutting wood. So like that was kind of like my first introduction to it. And then like honestly, like after that, it kind of like goes blank for a while until like college, where I'm in college in Florida and the beer choices are not great. Like your liquor store only has so much, and like you get burnt out drinking Bud Light, Michelob. I think like Sweetwater 420 and like Dogfish Head was like the only craft beer around me at the time, which weren't bad. I mean, they were the thing to have at the time, but at the same time, like I could maybe find Chimay somewhere, maybe. But at the same time, I couldn't afford Chimay because
I'm a big fan of the. I like Dogfish Head. I like their 90-minute IPA.
Yeah.
And I only got to taste their 120-minute IPA one time ever, because
I have no idea what those minutes mean.
So I met the one of the head brewers at a food event 2 decades ago at this point, and he said so the minutes are. When they make their IPAs, they put the hops in right at the first, like, I guess, boil.
Right. Okay.
So
countdown. Okay.
So they put it in the first boil. Then they put more hops in at 30 minutes and 60 minutes. Yeah. So the 60-minute IPAs, there's hops going in at 0, 30, and 60. Okay. The 90 is 0, 30, 60, 90. And the 120 is 0, 30, 60, 90, 120. So you have this super, super, like, hoppy...
It's a long time to boil your beer. We do a similar thing with our West Coast IPAs. We do like I think this is like a 30, 10, and a 5 from the end of boil. Most boils are around 90 minutes, so it does make sense for the 90-minute IPA. 120 is excessive. 90-minute IPA would be like, that would be what we call first wort hopping. So when the beer is, I guess it's not really first wort hopping. It is from the time you start your boil, which makes sense. But without knowing what hops are in that beer and how many pounds of hops they're using, it's not really. It's like the term double dry hop. Like it's a term that like unless you know the specific numbers behind it, like you can't really glean that much information from it. Because I don't know what hops they're using. I don't know what the alpha percentage is. I don't know how much bitterness that's contributing to it. It is a bit of a marketing term. But hey, it works.
Yeah, I mean, it worked great. I mean, the one thing I say about the 120-minute IPA was that it was super hoppy, but not bitter. Which since I don't make beer, I'm guessing from the long boil process.
I would imagine it had more sugar in it because so much of that water boiled off, and you had just so much residual.
It was a thick beer. Yeah. It was it had for an IPA it had texture. It drank like a stout, like it had that kind of mouthfeel to it. But it was like, so you said dry hops. So I know I've been seeing a lot more lately of the wet hop. And how do you feel about the wet hops?
The wet hops?
Yeah.
So wet hop, first of all, where are you seeing wet hop?
I'm seeing wet hops pop up a lot basically on like social media.
Okay.
From breweries talking about using wet hops.
Okay.
And I mean, I've always known breweries have used, like, I know that, but I'm in the industry. But there's a lot of, I've been seeing it as more like almost a marketing term right now.
So that is actually one of the few things I will say is not a marketing term. I think, so with wet hops, there's only one time a year you can get fresh wet hops, and it's around close to August, September. It's during the harvest of hops. Hops are incredibly perishable. The moment you pick them, like they start going brown, you got to get them processed, you got to get them into the beer. So when wet hops happen, that is happening as the hops are being harvested. Everybody has their own hop contracts. You know, we get them pelletized and we use them in kind of like a pellet form that's been like cured for us so that we can keep them for longer. But when you get wet hops, you have whole cone hops that have all of their lupulin still intact, all of their flavor compounds still intact. Everything is incredibly fresh. And there are various ways you can use it. A lot of people throw that into their mash, so they put it into their actual case for their mash tun.
Okay.
We tend to put ours in our cold side. So like we use them the same way we would use a dry hop charge, but we would put them into like a vessel, pressurize it, and then recirculate our beer through it to actually pick up the hop character from those hops rather than just adding them hot side where we're just going to get a lot of bitterness. So the thing you get with fresh hops is you get all the floral characteristics and all the little nuances that you normally don't get from just the T90 pellets. Honestly, it's like one of the few opportunities you get to actually smell what the hops smell like on the vine. So if you do see wet hops at a bar, at a brewery, you should totally get it. It's like, it's such an underrated thing, and you probably won't see it again for another year. So, super important.
That's what we were talking about, like things that we wish people knew is like how perishable certain things in our industry are, like beer, food. I was talking to a good friend of mine who the rum company, and he tried to ship in sugarcane.
Yeah.
Sugarcane is when you describe hops like that, it's very much like hops. The second you cut it, sugarcane will ferment on its own, and so you have like it's like you got to process it and make rum immediately. You got to or make sugar like immediately, otherwise it starts fermenting, and it also picks up yeast from the air.
Yeah.
With hops are they like temperate. They're not they don't like hot. They don't like too wet. But so I imagine the hops are probably the same way. That if it's you try and when you ship, wet hops, they're picking up yeast the whole train ride.
It's pretty crazy. They hate heat. They really hate powdery mildew is like a really bad killer of hops because the cones are so tight that they trap moisture really well.
Which we have so much of that in the Bay Area in Northern California.
Yeah. So like most of our hops, they're grown in the Yakima Valley in Washington. So it's pretty arid and dry there. But as soon as they get harvested, put in a bag, and on a plane, like they're compressed. And they're picking up moisture, they're picking up stuff from the air. And it's crazy because when we actually get them into the building to actually use in our beers, if you stick your hand in that bag, it's hot. They are fermenting. All of the microfauna that's on there is like just churning away, and it feels like 85 degrees inside that bag. It is insane. So we immediately put them in our cold storage as soon as we get them. And just try and get them as cold as we can, or try and use them as fast as we can. See fresh hops, definitely go for it. It is, you are buying the product 100%.
It has much more of the pine, piney flavor to it. And then, also depending on the varietal, has different flavors, but it's also just that green flavor. It's like it's a freshness and also like a fresh cut grass on a summer day type of
totally
scent to it.
Yeah.
The beers, no matter what, also always taste much crisper. It's lunchtime, you've got tacos, what's your go-to beer?
It's going to be the lightest lager that we have. It's kind of a no-brainer, mostly because I like tacos, I think maybe more than I like beer, and I want the beer just to be there to kind of quench whatever spiciness I got, and I kind of want the beer to get out of the way of the taco. Because I like shrimp tacos, and I feel like, the lighter the beer, or the more, of any beer you can add more lime and citrus to, which is probably going to be a lager, it's going to make the taco taste better. So that makes a lot of sense to me. Second runner-up would probably be something like a lime sour or something like that. We do a really good key lime sour, so that would be definitely a front runner for me if I was going to do a taco pairing with that.
Very nice. Those are good choices. How do you feel about the rise of the beer cocktails that are coming back? It's a thing that dates back, hundreds of years.
Yeah.
But now it's like I've been seeing a lot more of it on social media too. The Lagarita is back. Spaghetti, spaghetti. Thing like, how do you feel about taking like your guys' beers here at Bare Bottle and turning them into those kind of cocktails?
In some ways we do. Like if you pan the camera just slightly, you can see we have like a little freezy machine over there that has kind of like not so much a cocktail infusion, but it's like a frozen beer slushy sort of deal. So like we're kind of like already in that realm a little bit, or kind of like, we already do that with micheladas a little bit. It's not cocktail per se, but it is a beer that has additives and adjuncts in it that are enhancing its flavor. I don't mind beer cocktails at all. I think they're pretty great. I think they're going to be it's another option for people to just have at the bar that isn't just like your normal drink. And if you want to try something different, it's great to have that option. I do worry that sometimes those things compete with the standard bar drinks you see, because it is hard to have a beer mojito and also know that they can make a regular mojito. I wonder if those things, those two ideologies might compete with each other, because sometimes I might be at a bar and I might see a beer margarita and I might taste it oh, this is pretty good, but you know what I really want now? A real margarita.
Yes.
Which honestly to the bar's benefit, because now I've ordered 2 drinks. Beer margarita was great and I want a regular one.
I feel like there's certain ones that are perfect for the bar setting, and then others are I'm on vacation.
Yeah.
The Lagaritas. I had a beer mojito, and I was at first, because I love mojitos, so I was very much I don't know.
Yeah.
But then I tasted them it's not bad actually.
Yeah.
Tastes pretty tasty. Tastes
Give me 5 more. Yeah.
Kind of like a mojito, and I'm getting water, right?